everyone. My name is Allison Stroshine, the storyteller behind Shanti Pox, a blog dedicated to telling stories of inspirational people who are adding more peace to the world, the lessons we can learn from them, and apply to our own lives. And today I'm super excited and thrilled to be speaking with Kerry Keegan. She is a metaphysician, an intuitive consultant, and a yoga instructor with over 25 years of experience. I have personally worked with Kerry, and I can tell you she has extremely amazing gifts, and it's a joy to work with her. Welcome, Kerry.
Thank you, Allison. It's an honor to be talking with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. So you have many remarkable stories in your life, but we're picking one to talk about today. And you were in a car accident it was 2002?
Yes, I was. At the time that the accident occurred, I was dashing back to my house to get something I had forgotten, and at the moment of impact, I was catapulted out of my body. Actually, it was more like floating out of my body at the time. That was my experience of the moment of impact. It's where I was rear-ended. I was just stopped at a traffic light, a red light, and I was hit from behind by a woman who didn't realize there was a traffic light going there. It was recently put in, so she wasn't. We're not used to stopping. In any event, the my experience of that was really extraordinary. It was otherworldly, even as a way to describe it, because for at that moment, my experience of time shifted rather dramatically. I was in another space and time. I was very light in my body. In fact, I seemed very conscious. My conscious didn't lose any continuity. I just clearly at that moment heard a loving, compassionate voice within my consciousness, is how I would describe it, welcoming me home and
Wow.
congratulating me home. And as you can imagine, since I didn't, my consciousness or my thoughts or what we would think didn't feel any different, I panicked would be a good word for it, and we began to have a dialogue. This voice, this compassionate voice, and myself, it was as if I was having a conversation from my heart. And essentially, what transpired in that conversation was two things. One, I was asked. Well, in my panic, I said I didn't want to go. I don't want to be welcomed home yet. I want to go back I want to go back. And they had asked me why I wanted to return to my body. And two, I was told if I did go back, I would need to heal my body. And at that moment, I looked down. For some reason, I knew time was of the essence. I had a very short time to answer that question because I was well on my way somewhere else, that I needed to come up with a reason to go back into the body and agree to heal it. I remember looking down and seeing an image of my body, a lifeless, in my car, and I didn't see any blood. So I said, it can't be that hard to heal. I'll go back in. And at that moment that I agreed to go back in, it was a very sudden jolt back into my body. That experience was incredibly different than the moment before. And I remember hearing a scream in the distance. Later did I realize that that was from my body, because 2 days later my vocal cords were so sore. I thought that's the only way it could be that voice that I heard, which was so far in the distance, was mine. So that's the initial incident, and that began a very long journey of healing to back where I am today.
So what happened? You came back and you had this amazing experience of actually leaving your body. You made the conscious decision to come back, and then what happened after you were back in your body?
Um, I Once I was back in my body, I couldn't move my neck. I felt like someone had poured cement in there, but other than that, I felt okay. So I was very much into alternative methods of healing. So I told the ambulance that came that I had a very surreal feeling around my body. I said I didn't want to, and I was very conscious of what just happened. I didn't want to go to the hospital, so I told them I'm fine, I'll take care of myself. I didn't know how I was going to do that, and I don't know why they agreed to let me go at that moment, but because I was in incredible amounts of pain, but for some reason I convinced them that the best thing for me was for me to take care of myself, and I immediately went to a friend who was a chiropractic healer. Um, um, and began really and essentially in a 10 years of recovery process. That time involved many aspects and many different processes of how I came to interpret, one, that experience, and two, how to heal. Um, and if I were to encapsulate it in a few sentences, I initially had to recognize that I was really seriously damaged. I had a herniated C6, C7 disc injury, a very nerve-rich area, which, depending on where I moved my head, I didn't have function. And then I'd make an appointment for a doctor, and then it'd be fine. And then I could wake up with different parts of my body not working. Nothing was consistent. Nothing could be mapped. It was very much very challenging to diagnose. Some days I would just have to crawl for a couple hours, and then if I laid down, I could get up and be fine. Um, so it was very challenging to get relief. Um, so the first thing I had to accept that there really was damage, and to accept that I couldn't continue on my life as super mom, healing others, healing the planet, healing taking care of kids. That road was only going to lead to less and less functioning, as I found out over time. I needed to process a lot of my life, which I was not processing. I needed to synthesize, sift, relax, and um, listen. This was the intuitive message I was getting as an intuitive. You need to just be still. I didn't listen to that, believe it or not, as much as advice I had been giving out to others. I didn't listen to that, and I decided to kind of subcontract my healing part to all of my friends who were therapists, healers, homeopaths, physical doctors, osteopaths, celebrated surgeons. You do that part while I maintain my life. Well, that did not work either. And it was only when I realized, with the help of a very skillful surgeon, that I needed to identify when I was in pain and when I was not in pain, because they couldn't track all of these symptoms. And they weren't going to operate because it's just too delicate a region. I could go to Europe and do an experimental surgery, or I could heal myself. They had a lot of confidence in me as a healer. I had to learn that myself. So one of the physicians said to me, "When are you not in pain. And I really answered, to my surprise, when I'm loving. And he said, at that moment, he said, I think you know what to do. That did not make me happy because I still wanted somebody else to heal me. As he walked out of the doctor's room, I said, I don't think you need this operation. I think you know what to do. I went back home, and that took a long time to incorporate that what that was my path at this moment, to understand, really go in and understand when was I happy and loving, and when was I not? When was I loving those around me and myself, and when I was not? What thoughts led to me loving myself, and what patterns of thought, and where were they, and how could I correct them, and how could I change them? It was a very visceral thing. For if I, for an example, had a challenging morning with my children and things didn't go well, and as soon as they left, I slammed the door and went, I'm really not feeling lack of being the perfect mom at that moment. I could really feel shooting pains through my nervous system, very strong, like thunderbolts of pain go through there. And then in the next moment, if I shifted that and celebrated the fact that I'm doing the very best I can, and I love myself, and with all of these amazing things, there's a lot I don't know. But one thing that I do know is that if I just love the fact that we are where we are, they made it to school, I'm a great mom because I'm doing the best I can and really love myself, my pain is substantially subsided.
Yeah.
So
That's incredible.
So that led me down the path to the heart.
Wow.
And opening my heart.
So you had, you were a single mom, you had 3 small children, and you were looking for others, although be it natural ways, natural healers to heal you, but ultimately you received the message that the healing would have to come from you. Is that right?
Yes, definitely. My intuition said, go to your mat. Go to your mat, we'll meet you there. I would go to my mat, and they would say, just breathe. And I'm used to doing a lot in a day, and just breathe, 20, 30 minutes, yes, and there was so much resistance in my body to doing that. There were so many things I could be doing, and there's a very strong, you want to heal, you need to come here, we'll let you know when it's time to move. And that was a long, long time, many months. I had to go to my mat and just lie down and breathe. And then I got the most relief.
That's amazing. And so you had this busy lifestyle, but then when you took the time to focus on yourself and focus on loving yourself and giving yourself what you needed, that's when the pain started to dissipate, and that's when you started to come into what can be, I've heard some describe it as the heart space. Can you describe what this heart space is a little bit?
I had a much easier time on my mat in my room in my house, filling up myself with love for all that I was. And I learned how to do this, and all in my room and on my mat, I could just love myself. But what I found difficult is when I walked out of the room, and I guess my patterns of being were very much a feeling of lack. Oh, there's, this I should be doing, this I should be doing. I could do that. I could have done this better. I didn't do this. All that seemed to dissipate, that enormous heart space that I could do by myself on my mat with my breath, and just bring myself and imagine the most beautiful. I think I pretty much began by visualizing the most amazing place that I wanted to be on this earth. My favorite place on this earth, and I would go there and imagine myself there, and what I felt like and how thrilled I was to be in my body and be alive, and sometimes it was hard to get to that space, but I think that's how I began going, this feeling, and now what does this feel like? And how do I make this bigger? And how do I make it bigger with my breath? And how do I feel in my heart at this moment?
That's amazing.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Kerry, for coming and telling your story, this amazing story of healing. You did it basically on your own, and it was 100% natural, and it basically came from within, healing from a major trauma. Very, very, very inspiring. Thank you so much for opening up. For listeners who want to hear more and maybe reach Kerry or read more about what she has to say, visit kerrykeegan.com. I'll be posting her website below this video. And for those of you who've had experienced a major tragic illness or physical injury, and you've used some sort of alternative method for healing, please post a comment below this video. I'd love to hear how you've done it. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to Shanti Pox to receive inspirational stories of peace. And remember, it's the little things that you do in your daily life that adds greater peace to the whole. So thank you, Kerry. Bye. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.
Blessings to all.